response to this disaster under the George W. Bush administration was among the worst and most ill-prepared of all time. It was not something that was particularly noteworthy in a good sense. Over the last 20 years, thanks to research, technology, and innovative practices by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration and partners like NASA, our nation is better positioned to predict, forecast, and prepare areas and residents in the path of severe weather events. However, for all the advancements that have been made since Katrina, President Trump is reversing this progress and deliberately threatening the safety of Americans, just as we're about to enter the most dangerous period of the hurricane season. A couple of weeks ago, a news story slipped by that deserved much more attention than it got. It was reported that the Trump administration is planning to crash and burn NASA's orbiting carbon observatory satellites, instruments that are still working, fully paid for, and capable of gathering climate data for at least another decade. Here's a nice little headline about that. This decision would literally destroy tens of millions of dollars of taxpayer investment and wipe out years of research that helps us understand greenhouse gas emissions, plant health, and the forces that are driving climate change. It also represents something much larger. It's another tack on science. Whether it's NASA, NOAA, NIH, FDA, USDA, or the EPA, we continue to see this administration undermine the work of scientists and researchers whose only mission is to inform, protect, and to serve the public. And as you've heard me mention before, this is not about reducing the size of the federal government. This is about dismantling science in order to reverse current protections and prevent further regulations. After all, if you don't know something, then you can't do anything about it. And that seems to be the Trump model. Let's be ignorant, because ignorance is bliss. Even if it's wrong, we can have some temporary bliss. This is no way to run a government. We also depend on NOAA's research to guide national policies on fossil fuels, automobiles, and industrial activity. When that science is gutted, it weakens our ability to hold polluters accountable and build a sustainable future for our children and our grandchildren. Instead of building our ability to be leaders and putting science to the service of our citizens, we're crippling our ability to protect people and the environment. Federal policy seeks to build an economy around fossil fuels, while our country and the rest of the world are working to replace them and develop the technology that will create the products needed to move forward. This is an enormous market, and America is going to be left on the outside looking in if we do not continue to support clean energy. Instead of being an industrial leader in global markets, we're going to be isolated and we're going to be outside those markets. This combines bad climate policy with bad health policy and creates bad industrial policy that closes rather than opens doors for American ingenuity and productivity around the world. It's an economic dead end. I don't understand how the president doesn't get, for example, with electric vehicles, that the rest of the world is going full speed in this direction of electrification. And what he's trying to hold on to is to keep our behemoth auto industry still mired in the days of fossil fuels. There's not going to be a market outside the United States for the kind of vehicles that Trump imagines we're going to produce. And that's not good for American companies. So this is a backward approach to economic development and something that's not going to serve us well in the long end. Here in Montgomery County, the effects of what he's doing are direct. NOAA's been a major employer of Silver Spring. Hundreds of our neighbors have already lost their jobs. Thousands more across the country have been forced out, taking with them decades of knowledge and expertise. And these are the people who provide the weather forecasts we rely on, track wildfires and storms, and deliver the data that governments use to prepare for extreme heat, flooding, and drought. And I know, we've talked with you before about what we're doing with sensors to help us prepare better for drought and be able, not drought, but for flooding, and to be able to respond more quickly to that. In addition to the concern about the continued loss of federal jobs, we're also losing the accurate, reliable science that our county and the entire country rely on to keep us safe from severe weather events. That's outrageous, and it's indefensible, and it's not necessary. To help us understand the scope of this problem and what it means locally and nationally, I'm pleased to introduce Craig McLean. Craig's a Montgomery County resident and a former assistant administrator for research at NOAA. He has spent a career advancing public science and has seen firsthand the consequences of these cuts. Craig, thank you for your service to our nation, our oceans, and our planet. And thank you for joining us today. So I'll turn this over to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ehrlich, and I appreciate your comments. And everything that you have said, I could just double down and endorse. I believe you're on the right path. I believe that the Trump administration is on a misguided and wrong path, and it's harmful to the nation, but also it's harmful to Montgomery County residents. I'll start at the beginning with just a brief explanation of what NOAA is. Not everyone knows and understands where and what NOAA is. The agency was started in 1970 to do three principal things. One was forecast the weather and continue in the heritage of what was the Weather Bureau, then became the National Weather Service. The second was to manage marine resources, which is largely attributed to two parts of NOAA, the National Ocean Service and the National Marine Fisheries Service. A lot of our Maryland residents enjoy the recreational aspect and even commercial aspect of fisheries. That's managed by both the state and the federal government. But then the third leg of the stool was the research enterprise to answer the question, what is the relationship between the ocean and weather, or the ocean and the atmosphere? And that was started in 1970. This young agency, NOAA, built ships and satellites and aircraft and sensors to go out into the ocean and up into the atmosphere to study this. It's distinguishable from NASA in that NASA is a research agency in looking for satellite surveillance of planet Earth and other planets and beyond. But the overlap and the collaboration is extensive. But in NOAA, at the time, to answer the question, what's the relationship between weather and the atmosphere, doing that for the past 50 years, we now know climate science. It's Earth system science, how these two interact, how the ocean makes weather, how weather impacts the ocean. We didn't set out to study climate science. In 1970, climate science was basically an artifact of geography. What is the altitude that bananas grow in the Andes? That was a climate question. Today, the climate question is, do atmospheric greenhouse gases continue to warm the Earth by how much, by what year? And we know that the climate science is proven. The Trump administration is trying to destabilize the public understanding by casting seeds of doubt into those discussions. And the rather disingenuous release just this past several weeks of a Department of Energy study by 5 scientists, as opposed to the thousands of scientists who have built the National Climate Assessment, which informs Montgomery County, informs the state of Maryland, informs the nation as to what future to expect in terms of our climate vulnerability, our climate resilience. What is our insurance rate going to be? What is the outlook for mortgages and real estate values in areas that could now be inundated or besieged with extreme weather? So that work is very important. And the Trump administration desires to undo, cancel, and shut down the climate laboratories. That includes the University of Maryland, shut down the cooperative institutes that NOAA operates, and the laboratories and programs that NOAA has. Not all of them, but a significant portion of them. The mindless approach here that was probably invigorated by the chainsaw-wielding cutter-in-chief, if you will, during the early days of the Trump administration, Mr. Musk with his DOGE team, was blind in terms of the impact of what those cuts would be. So we found a number of Montgomery County employees that work at NOAA headquarters and through other agencies, I would use the term extorted into departing the federal government, because the programs are targeted for elimination. The positions can be done away with, and people could lose what they had been working towards and had earned in the way of retirement benefits and other opportunities that underpin the federal employment that they have enjoyed. People left and departed as opposed to running the risk of losing their entire retirement benefits and others. So I see those as extorted departures. Here's a staggering factor for you. April 29th, April 30th, the last day that people left on what were buyout provisions offered by the federal government, lawful buyout provisions. 27,000 years of experience nationally left NOAA. 27,000 years of experience. So that's the entire mentor class that any new or up-and-coming employee has the benefit of relying upon. The Trump budget for 2026 would shut down every laboratory that NOAA has and every cooperative institute. That's a term of art. A cooperative institute, and I'll use the University of Maryland as an example. The university has competed for a status of being a federal recipient of federal funds for a period of 5 years, renewable for one more term, and then a recompetition takes effect 10 years after the initial award. NOAA relies extensively on the talent that comes from the universities, and others include Princeton, University of Miami, University of Washington, Scripps Institute, Woods Hole Oceanographic. Many universities around the country are part of this cooperative institute network. The Trump administration would shut all of these down, would lose at least 50% of the scientific contributions and the contributions of the federally employed scientists. Quite a few live in Montgomery County and the surrounding areas of Washington, Virginia, and other Maryland communities. Some commute into Silver Spring as far away as West Virginia, Pennsylvania, and it's remarkable where and how far people travel to come and serve and do these jobs. So the recklessness of the Trump administration, very concerning, much as Mr. Ehrlich has described. So the problem that's in front of us is that we obviously understand the national politics and how difficult it is for the Congress to go ahead and fight back against these mindless and reckless reductions. Now, I have to sing the praises of another Montgomery County resident, and that would be Congressman Jamie Raskin, who I have been at rallies with Congressman Raskin. I've been asked to speak after him and other members, including Senator Van Hollen as well. So we have some local heroes here at the county level, at the national level, through our level of representation. But we're short, apparently, on votes in the national level of governance in order to reverse some of these or challenge some of these trends. So it's a concerning notion for me. Now, what are the programs that are at risk right now? I'll mention several. The climate program inside of NOAA is not just research, it's also an application of that knowledge to share with the public. And these programs inform county, local, citizen community groups, state levels as to what is the vulnerability of a particular geography and what are the resilience steps that one can be taking. This is free information, free advice, and in many cases, jurisdictions don't have the funds to hire their own climate advice. They may not be as resource capable as Montgomery County might be, but these are resources available to the nation. That would be shut down because the Trump people do not like the term resilience. This is too far over the edge for them. But resilience is necessary for us when we realize that, let's just take, for example, the rainfall and inundation that we've seen here in Maryland. We've seen it in Texas, North Carolina, many other places around the country, New Mexico, Illinois. When we suffer a deluge, that deluge has to be accommodated by, for example, rainfall removal pipes and drainage that was designed 50 plus years ago for a weather norm that we do not experience today. Our norm is worse than it was at the time of construction. And we're burdened by that infrastructure and the bill to modernize that infrastructure. But resilience steps can mitigate some of that rather than just wring our hands and mourn the loss of citizens who might be lost in rapid rainfall and floods, as we did happen in this county, or as we did see in this county, not just a few short years ago. So these elements are concerning. The Sea Grant program, which has an installation in the county office not too far from where I'm speaking from in Olney, Maryland. But I believe Amanda Rockler is the watershed restoration specialist for the Sea Grant program and deals with many watershed issues to keep the quality of our water sound, our drinking water, but also that which runs in as an effluent into the Chesapeake Bay. The Coastal Zone Management Program is another one that has impact by the Trump reductions because those programs provide benefit to the nation. And lastly, I'll just mention the National Weather Service, which is inadequately prepared currently for the weather system that we are facing, for the weather series of systems that we're facing. The Weather Service forecasters are undertaking heroic measures to compensate for the reduction in personnel that the Trump administration has recklessly designed and caused the demise. You may have seen in the news that several hundred Weather Service vacancies will now be filled once the administration realized how far they cut into the talent of the National Hurricane Center, the National Weather Service, et cetera. So the forecasters are making historic and heroic measures to keep you safe, the kind of protection that they offered during the course of Hurricane Katrina, as Mr. Ehrlich mentions. But they can't keep doing that forever. And Trump realizes that they went too far and they need to hire back some people. It's a mistake they are not acknowledging, but their practices make that plain. So it's going to take us months to get the Weather Service back to the level of staffing that we need to have. but we can't keep weather forecasters on a wartime footing. There's a rational level of staffing that has to be played out across the country. So that's a progress that has been made by embarrassing the Secretary of Commerce, where NOAA resides, and the president's people into realizing they've gone too far. I'll just close by a little bit of background and understanding of where and how I got here. I'm originally from New Jersey. Please don't hold that against me. I came to Montgomery County because of my NOAA service. I've lived here with my wife for over 25 years. Very comfortable in this community, very admiring of our county governance and the services that we enjoy. Many of my colleagues in NOAA are still here. Many of my colleagues have either retired by the extortion that I mentioned earlier or lost their jobs. The entire collection of unlawfully displaced and fired employees who were dismissed because they were probationary employees. In other words, they had been promoted within 2 years, so they were excised from the federal service. They have lost benefits. They still live in the county. They are due those benefits from the federal government, a very unsatisfactory nature. But my time of service, I started as a maritime officer. I became the captain of a research ship and sailed around the country and other parts of the world doing oceanographic science, and then migrated into both ocean diplomacy, climate diplomacy, and also the workings of our research enterprise in NOAA, which I retired from in 2022, where I was the director of research. So, Mr. Ehrlich, thank you for your consideration and an opportunity to address these issues. And if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. McLean, for joining us. Members of the media, if you have any questions at this time for our guest, please raise your hands. Any questions pertaining to this particular topic? No questions related to climate change this afternoon? Well, Mr. McLean, thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your expertise with all of us. It is very likely that you need to depart. If that is so, feel free to do so, or you can remain in the media briefing. Thank you again for joining us today. Mr. County Executive.
Thank you so much for being here. I know I don't remember what Trump did the last time around with NOAA, but I know that when he tried to shut down NIH last time, the Republicans in Congress actually reversed it. And it's just hard to believe that the entire House and the entire Senate, that among all those Republicans, there's not anybody left who believes in science or who's bipartisan, that they've turned this into an ideological, tombstone for their party, that, they'll rest on the fact that science is bad. I don't get it. I mean, have you had any opportunity to talk to some of these congressmen and senators and ask them, how did you get here?
Several things, Mr. Ehrlich. Thank you. First off, yes, there are a good number of Republicans who I would say, I'm an oceanographer. Part of what I study in oceanography is invertebrates. There are a lot of invertebrates in the Congress, no backbone. They do not stand fast for what they might choose to believe in when they have to assert themselves as the visible person offering those views. Now, what happened in Trump 1 was a draconian budget that would have closed down many of the elements that we're talking about again here today, and the Congress didn't accept those reductions. What we've seen in Trump 2 is a similar refutation, if you will. The Congress, Republicans and Democrats, have said no to the proposed Trump cuts, but he's doing them anyway in the way that he spends the funds that have been appropriated. He's clawing back those dollars and shutting programs down by taking those dollars off the existing budget. So what I see happening is that many representatives and a few senators understand climate. They understand the risk to their constituents, but they don't feel they have the courage to speak out because they're afraid of not getting elected again. And that's a bad setting for a public representative, where you value your job more than you do the service to your constituents. That's what I think is happening in the lack of character and the devout cowardice that we see in the Republican side. In the anonymity of a continuous global vote in the House or the Senate, those budgets are coming through. So Trump will still cut these programs even if those budgets are passed. The budgets that fund NOAA can be passed, but Trump, in his belief of the executive power, will claw back that money and continue to shut down and reduce programs.
I see, Mr. County Executive, I see that Judy Hirth has her hand up. She's with Greater Olney News. Good afternoon, Judy.
Good afternoon. Thank you. Mr. McLean, in your assessment, what will this have on the future of those who might want to go into the study of oceanography or weather or other subjects associated with maritime or any of the jobs that NOAA might have employed? Could this have an impact on that sector of education?
Yes, I believe it will. But what I've already noticed, and in talking to presidents of universities and chairs of oceanography departments, there already has been a decline in the number of students in those disciplines, which is very alarming, given that we seem to have a crescendo of public concern over climate change, the state of the ocean, the resources, fisheries, and the like, the health of the ocean, the health of the atmosphere with greenhouse gases. Given all of these combined facets, there is a decline in the number of graduate students studying these subjects. I think this is going to exacerbate that outlook. Now, what will happen to those students that are currently in those tracks? I think they will wait with optimism for what happens in the next national election so that we might see some reversal and the pendulum start swinging back towards a more rational outlook. But the passion that people have for these jobs is not matched by the availability of these jobs. And the fact that the federal government is shrinking, whether it's in public health and medical research or whether it's in environmental research, EPA, NOAA, NASA, other agencies, U.S. Geological Survey, all of these agencies are going to suffer. Now, I have to say, we have to be rational about this, that the size of the government periodically needs to have a review and reset. The Clinton administration did that, but they did it deliberatively, and they evaluated each position that was proposed to be taken off of the books. This time, it's just been with one big swath and paintbrush to just roll it over, and the unintended consequences were not of any concern to the people who are making those reductions. So to answer your question, yes, this will have a reduction, a chilling effect on the aspiration of our young student bodies to pursue these, which is, as Mr. Ehrlich said, the demise of American prosperity. Our science and technology has been the engine, and Montgomery County has been a seat of this to be driving technology and to be driving innovation. I think it's damaging and dangerous.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judith. Members of the media, any more questions for Mr. McLean this afternoon? Lionel, I saw your hand up momentarily. Do you have a question?
Hi, good afternoon. I do, but it wouldn't be for Mr. McLean. It's for Executive Elridge, and it's
Okay.
for a different topic.
Gotcha. Thank you very much. If there are no more questions, Mr. McLean, again, you can remain on the call or you can depart. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
Look, and thank you again for being here, sharing your insights. You know, we're lucky to have you, and I really appreciate your frankness. Your last point I think is really clear. I mean, if anybody had come in and said we're going to take a hard look at the federal government and look at how it's organized and structured and make sure it runs as efficiently as possible, I don't think there would have been any debate about that. Anybody who's dealt with or talked to somebody who deals with a federal contract knows that they've created a lot of jobs for lawyers just to look at paper and have no productive outcome. And there are a lot of places where you could have made this more efficient, but gutting knowledge and gutting research has nothing to do with efficiency. It's like, we don't want to know. We don't want people to understand the impacts of what our corporate behemoths are doing, because that just gets in their way. And this is not about the American people. And I wish some of the Republicans, particularly the working class folks who don't have a financial stake in this nonsense, would realize they're the ones who are going to get hurt. They're the ones with the least means to deal with climate change or with the pollution in the environment, the least opportunity to move away from a dangerous place. They're the ones that are going to be hurt the hardest. And they just seem to be going along with this. And it says a lot about the American educational system in those states, that they have no appreciation of science.
Well, you were an educator, so you know this well, but I also want to point out that many of the programs that are being targeted by Trump to be canceled are targeting those communities that don't have the economic ability to foster their own climate resilience strategies. So you and I could probably continue a long time on this, and I don't want to abuse your
No,
calendar, but thank you so much for having me, and I'm available if you ever need me. Thank you.
thank you very much. Um, so many residents want to know what we can do, and one thing you can do now is submit objections to the rollbacks. And a great way to do this is to submit formal comments to EPA and DOE. I highly encourage you in the media to share these opportunities with your audience. After all, folks aren't going to know they can do this unless the press actually reports it. The first is on the repeal of the EPA's endangerment findings. EPA's 2009 endangerment finding shows greenhouse gas emissions and climate change pollutants are bad for public health based on decades of scientific evidence. Since it was enacted, it has provided legal and scientific support for rules that limit pollution under the 1970 Clean Air Act. By the way, Richard Nixon was president then. Richard Nixon also created the EPA and apparently NOAA. So let's think again about bipartisanship. Now the EPA proposes finding that greenhouse gas emissions are not a danger to public health at all, which is simply untrue, and it would allow the fossil fuel industry to increase pollution. The EPA has a comment period on this proposal open until September 22nd, 2025. Members of the public can submit comments on the website that we're putting in our chat, and that's https://www.regulations.gov/EPA-HQ-OAR-2005-0194-0093. There's another place you can give input. That's on the DOE report. The Department of Energy released a report disputing the long-standing scientific consensus that greenhouse gases are changing the climate and triggering extreme weather conditions. DOE has a comment period on this draft report open until September 2nd, 2025. They wanted to give you lots of time to comment on it. That'll be like a week from now. And we're also going to put that website in the chat as well. I'm not going to read it again, but it's in the chat. Please let your readers know about this. It's important. Clean water grant applications on the good news side are now open. This is some good news here in Montgomery County. Today, we're announcing $900,000 in Clean Water Montgomery grants available for our local nonprofits and community organizations. These awards will range from $40,000 to $100,000 and will support projects that improve water quality, stream health across the county. This is the 11th year of this program, and it's made possible through our Water Quality Protection Fund, a partnership with the Chesapeake Bay Trust. Last year, we invested $750,000 in these grants. This year, we're raising it to $900,000. We're doing that because protecting our water rates requires real partnership and real participation, and because we recognize that many environmental nonprofits are struggling with fewer resources from the federal level. These local investments matter. They empower watershed groups, civic associations, faith-based organizations, and community leaders to design and carry out projects that reduce stormwater runoff, install rain gardens, create permeable pavements, and reduce litter in our rivers. They also fund environmental workshops and community water quality monitoring, hands-on projects that make a visible difference in our neighborhoods. So these are important things we can do. Eligible projects located throughout Montgomery County will be considered, except those at Gaithersburg and Tacoma Park, since these large municipalities manage their own stormwater systems. Applications are due by 4 p.m. on Thursday, November 13th, 2025. To learn more, register for the upcoming pre-application workshop on September 10th. Or review the requests for proposals. Local nonprofits can visit cbtrust.org/grants/Clean Water Montgomery. We'll post a link to the website in the chat. Supporting these groups helps improve our local streams and the Chesapeake Bay, and sharing grant money is also going to help get more people involved and bring diverse groups into the conversation. This is how we keep moving forward on environmental protection, by working together at the community level. Even when Washington refuses to lead, we're going to continue to do our part to try to build something better for the future. Later this afternoon, I'm going to be attending a BizNow Future of Montgomery County event, and I'll be on a panel with Dave Bramble of MCB Real Estate to discuss Viva White Oak, the largest real estate investment ever in East Montgomery County. The redevelopment of Viva White Oak has been talked about for years, but not a shovel has gone on into the ground. The East County's been waiting far too long for the jobs and housing and amenities this project will bring. What's different now is that we finally have the right partner. Dave and his MCB team bring experience, access to capital, and a commitment to make this project a reality. The county's stepping up as well. We're proposing our first ever tax increment financing tool. They're called TIFs, in case you've heard this word before, to support the road and utilities that are essential for development. A TIF uses a portion of the new tax revenues generated by the project itself to finance the public infrastructure that makes it possible. It's a proven tool used successfully in many other places, and one that will help us deliver the infrastructure needed to drive long-term growth without burdening taxpayers. Just so you know, to make sure we were doing this the right way, Montgomery County hired the financial advisors, so they were responsible to us for analyzing the economics of the TIF and whether or not it made sense. I myself, have come to support the idea of TIFs, but I'm also aware of the risks of TIFs and histories that has not always been kind. And so cognizant of those things, we, I think, put together a good package, and the developer put together a good package that addresses the kind of concerns we would have had. So I feel good about this process, and it's going to make a big difference. The capital needs that are going to be in White Oak are going to be enormous, and much more than some developers are going to be able to absorb on the projects that will be built over there. When Viva White Oak is built out, it'll create nearly 9,000 permanent jobs and over $60 million in new tax revenues. It's also a chance to show East County that it's getting what it deserves, and it will finally receive the same level of investment and opportunities as other parts of Montgomery County. Since I got elected for the first time, there were a bunch of projects stalled in the East County. Viva White Oak was one of them. So was Burtonsville. So was the town center for White Oak and the White Oak Gateway. And every single one of those projects now has been open and in the process of development. Burtonsville is actually finished. The shopping center on 29 is finished. The Gateway, New Hampshire Avenue is in process, and now we have this one. So we've made a lot of progress in the East County, and we're also basing a future home to the East County campus of Montgomery College in the East County. So East County is going to look different and feel different over the coming years, and they're going to have the kind of amenities and support that other parts of the county have had. I look forward to the conversation this afternoon. I want to thank BizNow for giving us the opportunity to highlight how this project can transform East County's future. Before I turn things over to our HHS team for their updates, I want to take a moment to recognize the important work they're doing across the county every single day. This summer, HHS completed another successful Summer of Peace initiative, youth engagement programs that give young people constructive outlets, positive mentorship, and safe spaces to connect. These programs are building relationships that help prevent violence and keep our neighborhoods safer. HHS is also expanding access to care through the mobile health and dental health vehicles. These clinics on wheels bring medical and dental services direct to the communities where healthcare options are limited, making sure residents don't have to choose between long travel times or going without care. Within the next few weeks, the vans will be in Poolesville, Wheaton, and Olney. Another priority right now is vaccination outreach. With the start of the school year, it's critical that students are up to date on their shots. Our HHS team has been out in communities, at schools, and at events to ensure families have access to accurate information and convenient opportunities to get vaccinated. We offer free back-to-school vaccines through the end of September, and check the website for dates and locations. Substance misuse continues to be one of the most difficult challenges we face. HHS is working on several fronts, reaching out to those struggling with addiction, helping families navigate treatment options, and supporting those who have lost loved ones. This Thursday, the county will host our annual International Overdose Awareness Day ceremony at the plaza outside of the Leggett Office Building here in Rockville. At this event, we honor those who've passed and to remember them with dignity and to provide a place for families and friends to heal together. And of course, HHS is on the front line of supporting our unhoused residents, and we're closely monitoring the impact of President Trump's action to criminalize homelessness in the district. While we've seen a small increase in our unhoused population, and it's been small over the past week, many of those moved off the streets in DC have been connected to emergency shelters there, as well as facilities in Arlington County and the city of Alexandria. Here in Montgomery County, HHS continues to help individuals find shelter and stability with compassionate care. What ties all of this work together is a commitment to prevention, education, and equity. HHS doesn't wait for problems to grow into crises. They're working proactively to serve every community in our county. Their outreach and engagement make Montgomery County a healthier, more compassionate place to live. We probably do more for people than any county around us, all told. I'm now going to turn this over to the HHS team for their reports, and then we'll go to your questions.
Thank you, Mr. County Executive, for that. HHS continues to move forward with all the work that we do, and I'd like to personally thank our partners, our fire and rescue, public safety officers, our public and nonprofit entities who do this work with us every day. We could not do it without them, so I appreciate the acknowledgement this afternoon. I will turn it over to Dr. Ashford now and Mr. O'Donnell for the public health update. You mentioned vaccinations, and there's some other things going around in our public health services that we want to highlight this afternoon. So Dr. Ashford, I'll turn it over to you now.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Bridgers. And before I start, I just want to echo Dr. Bridgers' thanks, Mr. County Executive. The reason we get to go out and do this work every day is because of your continued support of us being able to keep our residents healthy. So thank you for that. Just want to reiterate, back to school vaccines. We had the opportunity to vaccinate 70 kiddos at the MCPS back to school event on Saturday at Wheaton Mall. If you are a seventh grader and kindergartners still need their vaccines, please do reach out to our vaccine clinics to schedule those appointments. And I will now turn it over to Sean for his updates.
Good afternoon. Just a reminder, we are still seeing elevated COVID activity in the county and in Maryland. Our hospital numbers went up just a tad this past week. We do have 6 individuals who were in the ICU as of today's count, and another 22 who were in acute care. So for those people who are at increased risk, it might be a good time to wear a mask if you're going to be in a crowded public place. We have not yet seen other respiratory diseases go up, but as kids go back to school, that is when you start to see RSV and a few other things begin to increase, and we'll keep you all up to date on that.
Thank you, Mr. Daniel, and the rest of the HHS team. Members of the media, any questions right now for the county executive and other county officials? Please raise your hands. No more questions?
But Lionel had a question for me.
Yes, I didn't want to kind of call on him, but all right. Scott Lynn, WMAL. Good afternoon, Scott.
Hi, good afternoon, County Executive. Thanks for doing this as always. Quick question with regard to the President's executive order and the cashless bail topic. Thoughts on that and reaction to the executive order, sir?
I think every day he shows us new ways that he's nuts. Cashless bail. So, I mean, there are people who get, arrested and held for pretty low-level crimes, nonviolent crimes, but without bail, they don't get to go out of, they don't get to get out of jail. And we're not talking about, cashless bail for potential murderers, rapists, people who commit violent crimes, people with guns. We're talking about for primarily people who commit very low-level crimes. If they can't come up with the cash, then they're staying in jail. And who's paying for them staying in jail? We are. Do they need to be in jail? In many cases, they do not. And are they a threat to the community? The judges are supposed to make a finding that these people are not a threat to the community. So imposing cash that could increase the time a person spends in jail, that could prevent that person from going back to work and earning money that supports their family. These are all really negative outcomes. So the idea of cashless bail, people have been released on their own recognizance before. I don't know if that's going to fall into Trump's definition of cashless bail, but it would seem like it should. This is really a problem, and it's certainly not fair, and it's not just. And there's no crisis that we can point to say this is he's trying to deal with a crisis out there, because there's not one. And this is also not a county policy. This is a court's policy. So the county has no say in what the policies of the courts are. That's not our jurisdiction. So I don't know how he plans on interfering in the court system, but apparently he thinks he can interfere in anything. So why not this?
Understood. A quick follow-up with regard to the threat of the pulling of federal funding. Is that just more of, hey, this is his argument, but he's going to have to argue that with someone else?
Well, what's the scary part is the courts could say, we're not making that decision. And he could say, I'm pulling federal funds from the county, even if the county or the state governments themselves, because there is a separation. I don't think he realizes between judiciary and the legislative and executive branches. If they don't do it, I kind of dread the thought that we would get punished because the state decides it's not warranted to follow what he wants us to do, and they don't do it. That would be very upsetting if we got punished for that.
I thank you so much for the answer.
Thank you, Scott. Members of the media, any other questions? Oh, I see Lano Donovan, WUSA 9. Good afternoon, Lano. You might need to unmute.
Yes. Okay, we're good. Thank you so much. I appreciate appreciate your patience and everything. And this might be kind of a broader question. It's in regards to school bus shortages. From what I understand, the school district is fully staffed. This year coming in. I was wondering if, maybe you could kind of talk about some of the strategies that the county has taken in order to make sure that that the county had enough school bus drivers for the school year, given how some of the neighboring counties aren't really doing as well getting school bus drivers into their district.
I think the school system got out early and did a really good job with recruitment. And in the last budget, we provided the school system with enough funds that they weren't in a position of deciding which positions to leave vacant. They were struggling with a lot of vacancies in teacher positions. I certainly, recognize the school system is, a whole thing, and that if they come up short in one area, it usually comes out of someplace else. And we wanted to make sure they had the resources. I think them having the resources has helped them manage this problem better.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Lano. Members of the media, any other questions for the county executive and or officials this afternoon? No more questions? Well, we thank you for joining us. Thank you. And have a great afternoon. Stay safe. We'll see you next time.
Take care, everyone.